Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us. Before we begin, I do want to let you know that we have adhered to strict COVID protocols. We have both been vaccinated, we've been wearing our masks here at the conference, but we won't be wearing them for this interview.
I'm Microsoft teaming with Microsoft Teams. I'm learning and dreaming with Microsoft Teams. The hub and the teamwork of Microsoft 365 in these quarantine times. I'm Microsoft teaming with Microsoft Teams. Yeah. With Microsoft Teams.
Hey everyone, welcome to this special episode of Inside Microsoft Teams. I am here at the M365 Collab Conference in Las Vegas, and with me is Jeff Teper. How are you, Jeff?
Good, Stephen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, and it's great to see you in person. It's been almost 2 years since we've been at a conference or done something like this. How's the week been for you so far?
It's been incredible. You know, as you know, a lot of the people here we've met with and worked with as part of the community for many years, and to see them, as well as a bunch of new people that we had a chance to meet in the last day or so, it's great. And so we just are hot off the keynote where we had 6 of my colleagues with me sharing everything from Teams to developer tools, and so it's really energizing to see the community.
I've missed that energy kind of coming back and forth from the folks, and it's weird doing these events and you talk and you don't get that energy that comes back at you when people are excited and about what we're talking about. So having that once again, I'm very excited about my sessions this afternoon.
Good.
All right, well, let's talk. We covered a lot of stuff, and I wanted to make sure I got this right, so I wrote it down. But your message at Ignite was how we're making content collaboration experiences more intuitive, engaging, and flexible. Does that mean that we're trying to make things simpler for teams? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, there's this overriding theme of what we're doing in Microsoft 365 all up, in particular Teams, is, you know, we are trying to make powerful things simple for people. If you get to organizations of any size, they have some pretty sophisticated needs, but they want and need the solutions to be simpler. So we're very focused, whether it's the meetings experience in Teams or how you share files and collaborate on documents with people inside and outside the organizations, to take these very powerful capabilities and make them incredibly simple. And so that was the theme that we shared at Ignite, but we also emphasized a lot this week.
Behind a lot of that is AI. And one of the conversations that I keep having with people or trying to land is that we really see AI as an assistive, even predictive technology. That AI should say, oh, you're about to go to a meeting. Here's some things that you should know, and here's some past emails and things like that. As we take a look at a lot of AI-driven features, you know, like Viva and things like that, how do you look at AI? Or if somebody says, you know, well, AI is bad and it's reading all of our stuff, which it's absolutely not. How do you look at that? How do you explain to people how we look at AI as part of that whole ecosystem?
Yeah, a way to oversimplify it, but maybe do so to make a point, is AI to some extent is like a super powerful search engine. Mm-hmm. Search engines index documents so you can find them, but their algorithms are fairly simplistic.
Right.
And so what AI and machine learning does is take much more advanced algorithms to build models based on a feedback loop of what people find interesting and useful to them in their job. And to be clear, as opposed to, say, a consumer social network, what we're really trying to do is help people be more productive. We don't want them to necessarily look at Teams or Viva all day long, but as they've got 5 minutes before the meeting, can we show them the related documents to the meeting?
Right.
If it's in the morning, they're booting up Teams and they've got Viva connections, is there a feed of Yammer posts and SharePoint news that's really relevant to them based on their past behavior and people working around them? So I look at these technologies as helping people know what their organization knows, but they may not know or may not have time to sift through. People tell us they're overloaded with information, they don't have time, and so it's, you know, the latest technology in helping bring information to you at the right time.
So we talked about, you talked about Viva. Viva's made up of a bunch of different products. We have topics and insights, connections, learning, and now Ally.
Yeah.
For someone who's not familiar with Viva, what is the best way to sort of break this down into what does Viva mean to me and what does it mean to my organization? So if I'm an IT pro and I'm looking at Viva, it just seems kind of overwhelming because there's so many different areas of it. So what's a good way to sort of wrap this, put a wrapper on it and help people to better understand its role within the organization?
Yeah, I think it's the easiest thing to do is just take each piece of it and in a single sentence think about the value proposition of that component. Viva Insights, there to help you manage your time better. That's it. Give you insights about things where you're spending your time, other ideas and suggestions. You use your time better, you'll get more done and get more time back. That's a very clear value proposition. Viva Connections is about how an employee can get access to the information and applications they need based on their profile and role. Pretty straightforward. So each of these pieces has something that every employee and organization needs. It's pretty straightforward. And we could have talked about them, as you know, you and I have talked about branding and the art of that and technology for a while. We could have given them each unique brands. We could have put them in as features of Teams or SharePoint or Outlook or something else. And instead we said, as we're listening to customers, there is this bigger idea out there. There's this bigger need for how companies engage and inform their employees that's a level above the base communication and collaboration work that gets done. And so we thought, rather than just bake it in, rather than give them a set of discrete brands, let's tell a story of a family, of a broader vision for strategy of Viva, which means to live, that it's not just about to work, it's about to be empowered and engaged and contribute to your organization. And so that's the second part, is what we're doing in the brand. And the third part is for people who feel like, wow, do I have to learn something new? It's built on what people are already familiar with.
Right.
So a page in Viva Topics for sharing knowledge in your organization, just a SharePoint page.
Right.
It can harness videos and stream and Yammer conversations and so forth. Viva Connections, same thing. It's just taking what we already have, what companies have already invested in, and make it simpler. So I think that's the three part, is understanding how it builds on what you know, why we came up with a new brand for it. But the most important thing, and the whole point of this, is what is the value of each of these modules?
Yeah. I mean, I know two things that we've taken away from it within our own org one was management looking at an aggregate of the data of our organization of modern work. They realized that, with the pandemic, we were doing 5 days worth of meetings and work in only 4 days, and reducing our week to 4 days and giving us a fifth day that's a non-meeting day, that it would be not only more beneficial, but that we had gone from having a meeting and a break to 30-minute, 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 and being able to look at some of the insights that we had to be able to come up with that was great. And I've seen it, before I'll start a project, I'm often looking through to see what are other people working on and go, oh, somebody's already started that, or has worked on part of it, or I should bring that person into this project because they're working on a piece of it. I think the amount of duplicative work or being able to better partner and build on the work of others has gone up dramatically with a lot of these insights when I can see what other people that I work with in the org are working on. And it's changed the way I work, because now I'm looking at that going, oh, interesting. Okay, I think there's some opportunities here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's sort of two sides to this, as you point out. One is that when I do have to prepare for something, maybe I'm writing a project plan or briefing a customer, I can count on the information and experts and topics and communities being there for me to tap into. The second thing, which I think is a really big thing and you hit on, is the point of these productivity tools, whether it's email, chat, or meetings, is not for you to use them all day long.
Right.
We're not trying to attention hack you to do that. That is not our goal. Our goal is to give you these tools to help you be productive. And if you can count on it working as well as you just described, then maybe not only will you curate a schedule for work in your team that has less meetings, you will feel more confident and secure. This meeting, I should go, but I don't need to. I'm going to get some other work done.
Right.
And then if I need the information, I can count on the meeting recap capabilities or the meeting video being recorded and searchable. And so let me balance my time better. And so I think that's our focus. And sometimes people see us release a new set of tools and say, oh my God, it's there to have me do more stuff.
Right.
And no, it's actually quite the opposite. Is to help you be.
Yeah, I've had a lot of times I've looked and gone, you know what? This meeting's important, but I'm not a huge part of it. I'm more of a bystander, so I'm going to go later, type in my name or type in some of the keywords, see what pops up, do that, or look at the meeting recap, and it's great. So I can say, you know what? I'd rather take a lunch break and work on this meeting that I'm leading this afternoon rather than attend this one, but not feel that I've missed out on things. It removes a lot of the FOMO, and it helps you, in many ways, help get you to find a better work-life balance, which I love. Awesome. Let's talk about Loop. Yeah. Is Loop just Fluid Framework 2.0? Is it the same thing? Is it evolved? What is Loop? I mean, I love it that it is this technology that really sort of allows us to work more simply across a variety of different apps and platforms. But what is Loop, and how does it build upon that promise of Fluid Framework that we talked about 2 years ago at Build?
Yeah. So we started out with this notion of breaking down collaboration silos. Traditionally, whether it's our product line or others, there's this vertical stack of you're working with somebody in Excel and you're staying in Excel, or you're working in somebody in Word and you're staying in Word. And maybe you link to it as an attachment, but then you have to open the file, and things have advanced. We're now co-authoring the document as a live link with the latest changes, as opposed to forking the attachments. But it's still a silo of information. And so what we did with Fluid is come up with a technology to allow collaboration on heterogeneous chunks of information inside and outside documents that broke down those organization silos. And so you're right, we've talked about this for 2 years.
Yes.
What were we doing? And we were writing a lot of code that this hyper efficient protocol for these heterogeneous components to be collaborated on across applications was a big thing. We replumbed the storage layer in SharePoint to speak these native data structures. I'm not supposed to share code names when we've launched things, but we had this new Antler file system we built in SharePoint that is natively mapped to the on-the-wire structures for the Fluid framework, so the performance would be as screaming fast as we could make it. And while we were putting that plumbing in place, we were in parallel working on the end user value or experiences on this. And the first things that came to market that are now coming broadly available, in fact, I think we're 50% to GA, I saw last night, so it's probably fully deployed by the time you run this, is the collaborative components in Teams chats.
Right.
That's a novel thing, where you can edit these things together within the context of a chat.
Right.
You don't have to cut and paste the list back and forth. There's just the little simple
one truth
table. Yeah, one truth. But at Ignite, and then here at the Microsoft 365 conference, we showed really the next big step, where what if it's not just these components, but entire pages and workspaces of pages are built on these components, and you can collaborate on different fragments, and they're heterogeneous, and we give that authoring canvas a little more interactivity and fun. Sort of, why should chat tools have all the fun?
Right.
Why not bring it into the authoring tools as well? So we gave it, I'm really excited, that whether you sort of think about this from a technical angle, like data structures on the wire and on the disk, to the more end user human level, like how you could make this more fun for people to work together. That's sort of one thing that's resonated with people in Teams that we brought into Loop.
I love it, as if you've ever dealt with sales folks or things like that, hey, I can have what the numbers are this month, and every time you look at that, whether it's in an email, inside of Teams, et cetera, it's always going to be the most up-to-date information. You don't have to, I got to reopen it and refresh it. Everything is right there for you, and it's alive in a way that it's never really been before. And that's really exciting as we take a look at kind of where we see things going. How do you see the manifestation of this in like the next 2-3 years?
Well, I think there's this thread that runs through co-authoring in documents to async and synchronous chat and meetings to Loop about work being more, if appropriate, because some things need to be secure, more transparent, more fluid, if you will. That's why we use the Fluid name, where people are working together any place, anytime, on any device, in real time. They're bringing in business data. One of the things we showed connected to all this is something called Connect IQ, where you can get business data from Dynamics in these chats. And so you're not just talking about islands of text and tables, but you're really talking about serious line of business data from a system of record, honoring all their permissions and that. And so I think, just to your point, all this is going to get a lot more seamless.
Right.
That the time that people used to spend hunting and searching for information, say, look, you should first check the CRM system, and then you read the Word doc, and let's create the PowerPoint based on that, and then we'll send an email and see what the client thinks. And all that's going to be captured, in some loop page with fragments of information coming in that'll be hosted, and maybe hosted in your personal OneDrive, or maybe hosted in a team if it's something there that's needed to be shared broadly. So I think a lot of this real-time dynamic, bringing everybody in, accessible to everybody who should have access to it. Because one of the things we've built in this from the get-go is all the security and compliance capabilities we put in Teams and SharePoint and Office documents. None of that goes away. So if you're collaborating on a confidential product plan, it can be dynamic and fluid, but only amongst the bubble of people who should have access to read it. So I'm very energized about the future of collaboration.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's some really cool stuff. So we announced a lot of great things at Ignite. Some of my favorites were KFM for Mac, which is something that
they said it couldn't be done.
Yeah, they said it could not be done, but it's done, and I'm using it, and it's great. I'm really impressed. It just works beautifully. I've been able to turn it on, and all of a sudden there it is, and it's backing everything up, and it's nice now because I can now go from my PC to my Mac and see exactly the same files on my desktop as I move back and forth, which is something I couldn't really do before.
And do you think everybody listening knows what KFM is?
Sorry, known folder move. So I've talked about it many, many times. So your best way to get into the cloud, turn on known folder move, which is going to take your desktop and your My Docs and your photos and back them up and put them on all your devices, which is huge. And then the other one is, we've said many times, get your X drive, your Y drive, get rid of that, get that into SharePoint, and that gets all your stuff in the cloud and makes that work. So
so it's incredible. As an end user, you really don't have to change your fundamental behavior.
No.
You just save to your My Documents as you do on Windows or now a Mac. And then now you get access across all your devices. You get peace of mind. This is backed up. You get real-time co-authoring with people on any platform and any device, inside and outside the organization, if security permits. And then IT, as you say, gets security and compliance. So they can now do auditing of this. They can do information classification. They can do e-discovery.
Encryption,
and
all
on and on.
Of stuff.
So it's just, it's this magical feature of taking something people already do, which is like, save to My Docs.
Yeah.
And you get all these capabilities for it. So we're really excited. And one of the things, was fun in the keynote that I highlighted is, and you remember this from our time together on OneDrive before we started working together on Teams, is the growth of content in the system is now over 100 petabytes of new content every month. And the ability, KFM for a Windows and Mac user, and auto-create and auto-save to the cloud for an Office user, that's fueling that. Of course, we're doing all sorts of migration of existing data to the cloud, but what I think has been great is we've made it super seamless for people to just use their existing Windows, Mac, Office skills, and they get backup and collaboration and compliance.
And it's invisible.
Yes,
That's the key thing, is to an end user, when they flip it on after it's done, they're still seeing everything on their desktop. They're just getting that little icon that says it's in the cloud or not, but it's seamless. And that's always the goal. In all my years doing IT, it is, if the end user doesn't know something's happening, then you've done it right. And that's always the goal. OneDrive Sync Health Admin, I think, is great. So I was happy to see that. Migration Manager, that was another one that we've now seen, and the SharePoint tenant rename, which is great. What were some of your favorites? I know that Teams templates and Project Nucleus and some of those were big favorites of yours. So what were the things that you were really
there's
excited
so
about?
much good stuff there. Where to start? So you alluded to something, Project Nucleus.
Yeah.
It's something I announced last Ignite. We shipped it this Ignite. And basically, what it is we want to build our apps in a way where we can leverage a lot of browser tech, so it ports across web and Windows and Mac, but use enough native code to give us incredible performance and offline capabilities. And so we hit on this idea a couple of years ago that, for this relatively simple metadata in OneDrive, nobody knows, but we use SQLite. We have a little sync engine, syncs the files. That's really the hard part. But you have the metadata, like the timestamp and the title. We sync it into the database. It lets us populate views. We thought, That's a pretty powerful database. Microsoft Lists is based on Azure SQL in the cloud. What if we had a data model where our web experience for lists, which we've reinvented, is hosted on top of this SQL-like cache as opposed to the cloud, and that asynchronously we update deltas between your device and the cloud, and it will let us give incredible performance, much faster than we could do doing direct queries against the cloud, much faster. The way people build these PWAs is something with a technology called IndexedDB, which is a nice little database built in the browser, but it's not real SQL. And so we showed, Michaela Barrett showed in our keynote today, the ability to have a 20,000 item list that you could take offline and switch views in sub-second performance. And so we will never call it Project Nucleus ever again, because that was the internal name for it. It's just Microsoft lists that are offline and fast and use the OneDrive technology. So that is a good one. We love that one. The tenant, tenant rename, big long time ask. That's a key focus for us. I love probably, if I could pick one, templating. Part of the reason why am I here after so many years at the Microsoft 365 conference is that our tools allowed people to customize them to build repeatable processes, whether they were a partner of ours who built solutions for customers or a customer who said, I'm going to create one sales team and then copy it over to other sales teams. And so that templating capability that we always had in SharePoint and then came along with Teams, we finally brought them together where Teams templates can let you pull together all these artifacts, including Power Apps, and create a tailored solution for an organization that you repeat over and over again. So I love the unified templates approach. It was great to show the spectrum in Teams from everything from today's Teams meetings experiences and simplicity to tomorrow's mesh for Teams. That was something that was, of course, Satya calls and says, I want to show this. And we say, well, it's kind of early. And he says, let's show it. It was exciting to see that early work being shown. We'll be shipping it next year. So a lot of great stuff. We could go on and on.
No, absolutely. So I want to point out there were some great infrastructure improvements that were called out at Ignite. 10 times faster downloads, 5 times faster uploads. You alluded to it earlier, 100 petabytes per month of storage growth, and 200 plus data centers in 34 countries now. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah. I love to geek out on that stuff. Ultimately, what matters to the end user is it fast and reliable and secure? And so that's all an end user has to know.
That's it.
But we were talking about it with this Antler file system that is one of many technologies. We've had probably a couple hundred people. The SharePoint team is quite large, but there's probably a couple hundred people in the core security model, file storage, actively working in the Azure SQL code base. I mean, just to get that level of performance, we did work in the HTTP sys and TCP stack and Windows. We contributed code to the Chromium code base. We contributed code to Azure SQL. So the SharePoint team wasn't just like, hey, let's make an HTTP request and download a file. Every layer of the stack, we tuned and measured and tuned. We've been working with hundreds of customers on their own network topologies and going in and saying, oh, you're using the security device that's doing this long, complicated packet inspection in the middle of the download. What if you did this instead? It would cut your download time. You're routing everything from the user's home through a VPN back to your network and then out to the internet and then back to the user's home. Oh my God, that's terrible. Let's talk about this thing called split tunneling.
Split tunnel VPN, absolutely.
There's a time limit to your podcast, I know, so I won't go on and on.
Fine.
But I just, whether it's the core kernel or networking stack or database data structures. We've been rolling up our sleeves with some of the best engineers in the industry and writing code. And now, our file upload and download performance is better than the alternatives. And, we're super proud of it. And the fact is you said with known folder moves, the goal is for users to never have to notice this. It's just fast.
Just notice that it's getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one off-topic question, because you and I were chatting. We both watched the Beatles documentary.
Yes.
And love it. You've got the Hofner, you've got the George Harrison guitar at your house. There were so many.
A later model manufactured.
A later model, yeah, not the
later.
actual George Harrison one. No, don't go try to break into Jeff's house and get this thing. But we were chatting about it, and there were moments. And as someone who's also technical, who I think about things and bring it to life, watching the musicians, watching Paul and watching John just literally pull songs and things out of it. What moment really struck you in there? Because there's so many links between music and engineering and how we look at things. What was a moment in that documentary that you just kind of sat back and went, wow?
Yeah, I think there's this fascinating analog between making music in a band and creating software. Software scales a little bit bigger.
Yes,
usually you don't have like 2,000 people in a band, whereas you can't really write teams with 4 guys from Liverpool. It takes a few more than that.
Yeah.
But there was this scene with Paul and John where they were having a frank dialogue about how to give each other feedback about lyrics and arrangements. Should this be a fast song or a slow song?
Right.
Should their piano come in on the second verse or not? And here were these 2 guys who were pushing each other, pushed each other hard to the point that was one of several forces that ultimately broke the band up.
Right.
But as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about when we do UX design or we do engineering, we've got to have this incredible respect between people in the team.
Yeah.
So we can be that level of frank. And so I can tell you your user model, I think, is too complicated.
Right.
I see what you're trying to do, but let's simplify it. You can tell me my algorithm for file I/O has some overhead in it. There's a point where it's serialized and we should be able to deserialize. And so as a musician, it was just fun for me to see them work at the song Get Back and iterate on it. But sort of as somebody who's always trying to learn from other people how to be a good leader, how I could be a better leader of creative teams, the part that was fascinating for me was see them struggle to give each other constructive feedback to raise the bar of their output together. And that was like, wow, I took away from that. I'm going to see if I can apply that in a meeting.
And it wasn't, that one wanted his way over the other. I think this makes the song better. I think this is not doing that, but okay, this is how I'm viewing it. And there's a lot of love and respect as you watch that, but also I know I'm right and I really need to get this through. And watching that, I agree, come together. There's so many analogies as I watch them songwrite to designing software or creating how we talk about this stuff. And it's just brilliant, and I think whether it's the Beatles or any musicians, but especially those 2 who were at such a high caliber and such a high bar that they expected of each other, it's amazing to watch that come together. So for those of you who play instruments and do musical stuff, there is this interesting symmetry between the work that we do and can look at many of those things the same way. And the goal is to create a great song that people love, that they enjoy, and that makes their day better. And that's what we're always trying to do as we build software.
I mean, we can all study the patterns of music or the patterns of computer science, but eventually you sit down to a guitar or a piano or Visual Studio Code, and from your head has to come something that's entertaining or useful code or of high quality. And so it's just, that whole creative process is really, really fascinating to me.
I love that. I think there's no better way for us to end this note. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Stephen.
This was great. We will see you all next season. We have lots of great stuff coming for you. And thank you so much for watching us here on Inside Microsoft Teams. And Jeff, this was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Let's not have it be 2 years again.
No, definitely not. We'll do this a lot sooner, I promise.
Good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. There we go. That was awesome.